My man.
It is Keith Jones in the flesh.
Believe that. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing okay, my man. How about yourself?
I'm doing really, really, really
You are
great.
very handsome. Isn't he a handsome dude? It's incredible.
Thank
we
you.
get more fan mail for the Keith Jones
Whatever.
biceps. It's incredible.
Nah, stop it. Man, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
Good. Thank you.
Always.
So we are on our next episode. Tell me what you like to talk about today.
Well, here's one I think that touches all of us. It certainly touched me, still continues to touch me, and I struggle with it all the time, and that is not fitting in. Not fitting in.
Man, I got to tell you, that's a little hard to believe because you're good looking, you're articulate. Everything you say to me is like extremely thoughtful. Like I'm hanging on your every word. When I'm around you, I feel smarter. So I mean, it's hard to believe that you struggle to fit in. We go to triathlons, you kill it, and people love hanging around you, and you're an amazing chef. Dude, talk to me.
Well, you forgot that I am a notary public.
That's right. That's right.
No, okay, here's the thing. I think that's a lot of, you want me to pay for the check. We got new microphones, so I think they just have to pay for his share now. Well, here's the deal. I think that everybody, no matter how you perceive them, is fighting their own battle that you have no idea about. And it happens beginning in school. You were talking before about some of your physical characteristics that were made fun of.
Right.
I was a very fat kid, and kids made fun of me all the time. And it took me a long time to wear a T-shirt because as a little guy I had man boobs. And the girls would tease me and the boys would tease me. And that was a really tough time when you're growing up. And then you feel like, oh man, maybe I'm never going to be normal. I think a couple of things to keep in mind is that nobody is normal. We're all a little cracked. I mean, we're all a little damaged, right? Do you know anybody who's perfect, right? Zip, I don't think they exist. And if you think they do or they tell you they do, run like heck because they don't. So number one is everybody has something or a number of things that keep them from thinking that they're in the mainstream. We're actually more like, we're like a suspension, as opposed to a mixture. Like we're suspended in this as particles in like this big flowing culture.
Right.
But we're independent individuals, yet we expect that we're all going to be blended together and look all the same. And part of the joy of being different is to offer something different for the group. Right. Offer some benefit from the group that's different than what they have.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the solution. And the path forward, it's kind of hard though if you don't love yourself, and I think it starts with if you don't accept who you are. I really felt like I didn't fit in when I was dealing with this whole thing that we talked about a few podcasts ago when you alluded to in this show that I had this thing about having thick lips. And so in terms of being around people that I thought were attractive, I didn't feel like I fit in. And right now I volunteer at a hospital here in Arizona. And at this hospital, dude, smart people there. So here I am, the volunteer, with a different color shirt on, and I have all these like brilliant people walking around. And years ago, I don't know if I could have handled volunteering there because I wouldn't be the man, and it'd be hard to kind of fake my way through it. Everybody there's so smart, you can't exactly fake your way through that. And so, but now I've grown, and I really love myself, and I just want to be there to, to contribute. And if that means like wiping down mannequins or a hospital equipment or taking out the trash, whatever way, I just want to bring positive energy, be loving, be myself. And that's my contribution. So I've learned how to fit in there and by just being me. But back in the day, couldn't do it, man.
To your credit, that's a big step forward for all of us, that we just finally embrace whatever it is. We just say, well, what the heck, I have these, what I think are different anti-mainstream features, but I like them. I like that about myself. Now here's something that's really important that I don't think people actually realize. You'll realize it once I say it, and I think it'll hit home for you. When you think of the most interesting people or the people that you really want to be around, or the people that strike you in a seminar as somebody that you'd like to go up and meet and say hello to. Usually those people have exhibited some quality that runs against the grain, because we love eccentrics.
Right.
We do truly, in our heart of hearts, like people who speak their mind and say what they want to say, because we're often afraid to do it. And so these are like our surrogates out there,
Right.
doing things. And so my point is that the people who are well liked, the people who are followed, the people who are getting what a lot of people are trying to get by trying to fit in, get it by doing not fitting in,
Right.
just being themselves, as you say.
Exactly.
Just be yourself, show up, whatever that is, warts and all.
Exactly, and if you can, in the people that, that are like that for me, there's another common trait they have. They are really good about not letting their ego run their lives.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they seem to be humble, they don't take up a whole lot of space, but you feel them there. And when I say they don't take up a whole lot of space, they're not trying to come in and take over or make it all about them. And they just fit in quite nicely,
That's right.
I got a great friend, Matt, who,
Oh, yeah.
Matt just had a great loving energy, man. You just love being around Matt, he didn't say anything, unless he had something thoughtful to say. He was funny, and he was cool letting other people kind of like take over who had bigger egos and things like that, and he was great. And so that was a great lesson to me about, just being myself. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more comfortable not saying, hey, look at me, I need all this attention because I'm struggling to fit in, so I'm going to force my way into fitting in this space. That's been big for me. What's an example, because like I said, Rick, you seem like you have it all together, and when you told some of our listeners in the past, in previous podcasts, that you're fearful and scared all the time. They were shocked, like the response was, Rick is scared?
I just cover it.
Yeah,
I just cover it. It's kind of like a role play.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. So what's an example of you trying to fit in the past?
Oh, sure. Well, a couple of them. I remember clothes shopping when I was an adolescent, and what I did was I went through women's magazines, and I read the articles where the women were talking about the coolest men in Hollywood, or the coolest men in business, or whatever they did in Cosmo in those days. And so I would do whatever I could to save up and buy the clothes that those guys wore,
I got you.
thinking that I could transform myself by the outfit into these women's hearts.
Right.
So adolescence and all the juices and testosterone and all that forced me to try to be like other people.
Right.
One thing in this whole area about trying to fit in that's important is that nothing new comes from the old. When you think of it, every brand new idea was once really goofy and strange. And I think it was Tolstoy or Dostoevsky that said, there's nothing quite as powerful as an idea whose time has come. And I think if you substitute idea for person who comes, it's kind of like that in our social society. We really like people who are out there. One quick book recommendation for the show notes. Actually, let me give you 3 for the show notes on this topic. First, our buddy Wayne Dyer.
Oh, yes.
Well, he's not our buddy, but we like him.
Yeah.
He's dead too. We still listen to him.
He's in my ear all the time.
He's
my buddy.
Every morning, man.
Yeah.
All right, so he's got 2 books, and they're both old as heck, and you can find them probably at the library. They're probably still in print. One, of course, is Pulling Your Own Strings, and that talks about trying to avoid other people bringing you down and telling you who you are and standing up for yourself. And he recommends a number of strategies for trying to do that. Pulling Your Own Strings is one. And then, of course, the original one that he wrote. What was his original work?
Wasn't it Erroneous Zone?
Erroneous Zones, yes. And so those 2 from Dyer. And then I'd recommend a third, which is written by a guy named Chris G. And it's called The Art of Non-Conformity, in which he sort of reverses the culture and says, now look, if you were going against the grain, if you decided not to have a job, if you decided that you weren't going to follow orders, if you were going to open up your own firm, what kinds of strategies would you need to do, and what kind of mental outlook would you have to steel yourself against the inevitable criticism of the people who think you ought not to be doing it?
Right, that's great, Rick.
Wow. We'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, I read 2 of those books, but I haven't read the last book, so I want to pick that up and check it out.
Art of Non-Conformity. Chris is basically a guy who kind of dropped out, and his most important thing to him was travel. So he developed a strategy where he could get basically credit cards these offers of credit cards we all get. And he's taken up on almost every credit card offer that involved free airline fare.
Right.
So what he did is he has like over 100 credit cards, and he only takes the ones where they get flight miles. So every time he'd get 2 or 3 credit cards, they'd give him 50, 60,000 miles, which is enough for a round-trip ticket.
Right.
Anyway. He's been to every country in the world using that system. And he's, of course, branched out beyond travel. It's all about self-development and self-actualization. He does a conference that's quite powerful up in Portland and all over the country.
Oh, I like that a lot. In keeping with the topic of the show, fitting in, I think, where I really learned that fitting in was something that I cared a lot about, because I think I was not really present to it or conscious of how big it was in my life. But I think it was when we went to the Landmark Forum and they introduced the idea that as human beings, at all times, we're concerned with 2 things: looking good and avoiding looking bad to other people.
That's so true.
And that goes right into fitting in. Is when I was concerned about fitting in, I cared about looking good to people. And I probably wouldn't take risk or try new things, whether it was something physical, a business idea, going up to meet somebody new, because I wanted to avoid looking bad. No, I'm not walking across this crowded room to go talk to or introduce myself to this person. I'm too nervous, I'm too scared, I'm too afraid. I'm not going to take this opportunity, because what if I fail and other people know about it? That's all part of looking good or avoiding looking bad, which is part of wanting to fit in.
Well, and that's a real deficit. When you're starting to live your life for other people, which is what you're doing when you're trying to avoid looking bad, you miss the juice of life. Didn't Walt Whitman say everything in the universe is directed to one thing, namely you?
Right.
And the idea is that you're not only at play in this universe that's just unlimited with possibility, but you're also able to develop yourself, taking what you need, like a plant takes out of the soil, from society at large. And you shouldn't be worried about whatever else is happening. I want to go back for a second to the business about you being a volunteer, which is incredibly powerful. I mean, that's what you do. Your life is about giving and helping other people, and you've done that well everywhere. I've been a great beneficiary of that for the past 10 years of your love and your hard work. When you were saying there's a lot of smart people around, there's a classic example. Now just flip it for a minute. Okay, here you are, you're a physical specimen, you're volunteering, you've got all of these credentials that put you in the upper strata of our culture, and yet these guys you might not approach because you're so, maybe not you, but the rhetorical you, we would be so intimidated by talking to a doc who's at Mayo Clinic, and he's a foremost oncologist. What do I have to say to the guy? He probably watches sports. He probably watches something that would be very, very inspiring to him if he saw you doing it. I mean, how many referrals did you get from Mayos? We had a run of those people.
Yeah, we had a lot of people come through our workshop who are incredible caregivers and impact people's health every day that have worked at Mayo.
And that's my point. You have a different walk of life, and from their world, you're not competing with them in their world. You're not going to talk about spongiform encephalitis.
Right.
You're going to talk about things that have to do with motivation and helping people get out of their rut and moving and physical fitness and mental alertness. They don't know beans about that. So when you start talking, there's an exchange that you just assume you don't have anything to offer. That's crap. We all have something to offer. We all do.
Thank you, my friend.
I'm
going to walk in there this week, with a little pep in my step.
Well, and you bring a cheat sheet too.
Right. I will.
Pick out some long words and throw them out. Just let them riff on it or whatever.
So, maybe before we close the show, you can give people an idea of the things that you do to avoid the ego's pull to fit in.
I just yell at my ego. Honestly, I talked to Amy about this. When I choked, my last triathlon, I choked. I had done 9 of them, so it wasn't like it was new to me. But my last triathlon, I choked in the water. I went around the first pylon, and I just couldn't. I got panicked. So what I did is I just flipped on my back and I say, "Wait, what are you doing? You're acting out. This is stupid. What's wrong with you?" And that kind of helped me flip over, and then I went and finished it. Similar to that, when you find yourself in a situation where you think I'm not fitting in, heck with it. They're not fitting into you. I mean, it's a two-way street. Be civil, of course. You know, there's no reason, to be nasty with anybody. But the reality is you've got every bit of a right as the next guy to be who you are. And in fact, I'd go even further. I'd say that you have a responsibility to your own life force, which is a gift, to be who you are, nobody else, and with nothing added.
Right. And Rick, would you argue that the pull or striving to fit in isn't an act of self-love? It's not an act of accepting who you are as you are. Right. And if you can be loving to yourself, then however you show up will be more than enough.
Exactly. And nobody wants to be with somebody false, right? So if you love yourself and you're a little unsure, so what? If you love yourself and you're awkward doing something, so what? You know, if you can't do it as good as the next person, join the club. There's always somebody better than you doing what you're doing.
No doubt.
A ton of them, and a whole lot of better lawyers and, you know, better dads and all the rest. But it's your way, you know, you do your thing and then let it go.
Perfect. Well, thank you, my friend.
I love this part. Are we done already?
We're done already, man.
God,
Time flies.
God,
Time flies, baby.
Good. Okay, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. This guy's the real deal, honestly. I love being with him.
And I love you. Thanks, guys, for watching.